In this video, I'm going to reveal 4 assumptions that narcissists have about you. And you're going to definitely want to watch all the way to the end because I'm going to give you 4 of them. Obviously, you want to make sure you have all of them. All right. So number 1 is that they assume that you are just totally naive and buy into all of their lies. They actually believe that you are going along with everything. And the reason why is because right from the beginning, they were love bombing you and charming you. I mean, remember when they first came along, you believed that they were the most charming, most charismatic, most personable person on the planet. And they were very, very good at getting you to believe that. I heard this story this weekend about this guy who had charmed this family. I mean, it was a crazy story of this guy who was able to actually charm not just the daughter, but the parents. And like within a month or two, had the parents paying for his education, paying for his apartment. The father was actually a really well-known author and speaker who would speak all over the country. He had charmed the dad into traveling with him all over the country. He had charmed the daughter's mom into paying for vacations for him. I mean, seriously, was so charming, personable, and charismatic that he had all kinds of people believing that he was really, really pretty incredible. And so, yeah, what's an assumption that narcissists have? That you're totally naive and buying into all of their lies. More on love bombing in my YouTube video on love bombing. You can definitely check that out. But one of the things that they believe is that you are totally naive and that you're going to continue to buy into all of their lies. And why wouldn't they? Because they're really, really good at manipulating. They're really, really good at charming. And one of the things that I say all the time is not to be so hard on yourself when it comes to that, because they've been working on that particular skill their entire lives. I mean, that's the one thing that you really have to understand is a skill that they've been honing since the very beginning of their lives. This is survival for them. I always refer to Malcolm Gladwell's book, The Outliers, where he talked about how to achieve mastery in something, mastery at a skill. It took 10,000 hours. And he talked about how the Beatles went to Germany and they spent all, 3 or 4 years, whatever it was, in these underground clubs practicing. And then he talked about how Bill Gates had access to this lab to practice coding as a kid when he was 15 years old, to learn computer skills for a few years when he was in high school. That's nothing, like nothing compared to what narcissists have been doing their entire lives. They've spent their entire lives honing their skills on reading people, learning how to manipulate, learning how to charm. This is survival for them. So yeah, they're really, really good at it. And yes, they believe that you're totally naive and that you're going to buy into their lies because they have been conditioning you from the beginning. They have been grooming you from the beginning. They've been love bombing you from the beginning. So that is one assumption that they have about you. Number 2 assumption that they have about you is that they assume that your empathy, your kindness, your good-heartedness is also weakness. They take that as weakness. They use that against you. They end up taking advantage of your open-heartedness, your kindness, and they use that to the fullest extent that they possibly can, to the point that at some point you end up feeling used and abused and taken advantage of and drained and all of those sorts of things. But they also, they see that as weakness. They see that as a person who's weak and a person who isn't a strong person. They see that as a person who's weak. I mean, yeah, they see that as kindness or whatever, but they really kind of see it as a person who's weak, who doesn't know how to survive in the world and that sort of thing, and who doesn't really see how the world works and that sort of thing, like whose eyes aren't really open. They mistake it for that. And, your eyes are definitely open, at least now, right? Not anymore. Are you so naive? I'm going to have you put in the comments right now, not anymore, because your eyes are now open. You know what you're dealing with. So I want you to put not anymore in the comments right now. So that's number 2. Number 3, the third thing that narcissists assume, that you are just as manipulative as they are. They assume that everybody is. Actually, I mean, they really kind of assume that everybody's operating on this survival level like they are. I mean, they kind of, that whole idea of a dog-eat-dog world, and everybody's kind of out for their own chips and everybody's kind of get their own stuff. They kind of assume that everybody's sort of operating that way and that everything's transactional. They just kind of assume that everything you do and everything you say has an agenda, and that nobody really does anything just to do something for somebody else. Like, what is it that they want from me? Nobody really does anything just to do something nice for somebody else. They really do assume that everybody is operating the way that they are. And it's kind of sad in a way, but you have to understand that that's where they're coming from. So when you do see that, then, you can understand them better. And especially when you're going to negotiate with them, it's really, really important to understand their psyche when you are negotiating with them, managing them, dealing with them, communicating with them. These are really, really important skills. So that's number 3. Number 4 is also very, very important. Also shocking in a way, very shocking. And that is that they assume that you're never going to leave. And I have a whole video on this, why narcissists assume you're never going to leave. And this is a business relationship or a personal relationship, by the way. I was in a narcissistic business partnership with a covert narcissist. It was heinous and horrible and one of the worst experiences of my life. But from that experience, I started making these videos and I started doing all of this work. I've had millions and millions of views here on YouTube, and I started my whole Slay program and helped thousands of people from it. And from it came a good thing. I've helped a lot of people from it. But I will tell you this, they assume you will never leave, which is so crazy to me, because how do they think that they can treat people so horribly and yet think that you would not want to get the hell out of there? But that's the case. They really don't see it. But, I guess they just believe that they've conditioned you to the point that you're going to continue to put up with their BS, but it is what it is. And you just have to understand that. And sometimes you can use that to your advantage, by the way. I think that It's really weird that narcissists do these things. I have dealt with narcissists for more than 20 years in my law practice. My name is Rebecca Zung. I'm an attorney. I'm a narcissist negotiation expert. I've written 2 best-selling books. I have a third one on the way, which you can pre-order now. Slay the Bully, How to Negotiate with a Narcissist and Win. And I have helped many thousands of people break free from the chains of narcissistic relationships through my law practice. And I want to help you too. So if you are so ready to break free from a narcissist, then please subscribe to this channel, hit that notification bell. It is so time to be done, isn't it? By the end of this video, I'm going to give you 10 bizarre things narcissists do so that you can shift that dynamic and be ready to be free. All right. So one of the things that narcissists do is they walk ahead of you, which is so weird. You know, when you're hanging out with a narcissist, why is it you can't just walk together? And they give you these excuses like, I need to see where we're going. I will tell you what directions we have to have, or I can help us, whatever it is. But it's just so strange because then, you know, like if you want to go into a store or something, you have to like yell ahead, excuse me, you know, it's just they want you to know like that they are the ones that are in control, that they're better in some way. You can't just be hanging out and have a conversation. It's a control thing. It's I'm better. So they have to walk ahead of you. And you know, for me, I'm so good with who I am. I'm just like, you know, go ahead. Just walk wherever you want to walk. You know, I'll just I'll go over here. You walk that direction, I'll be over here. Fine. But that's what they do. They walk ahead of you. Number 2 is they value the opinions of others, even over the opinions of people that love them, that know them, that have their best interests at heart, over the opinions of the value, the opinions of people that they don't know. You know why? Because they think that by taking somebody else's opinion, that person will like them more. They use it as a form of charm. They use it as a form of charisma. What do you think? Oh, I think that too. It's a way of love bombing. So they take these other people's opinions as a form of charisma and charm, you know, so they will value the opinions of other people over yours, over the opinions of people who actually care about them. It's a form of supply. It's a form of narcissistic supply for them. So that's why they do it. And so you're over there going, why are they listening to that person instead of me or instead of people who actually care about them? But that's why they do that. It's a form of supply, just like anything else. So that's number 2. Number 3 is they fat shame you. They body shame you. And if they're a covert narcissist, they might say things like, well, yeah, you've definitely lost a lot of weight. I mean, you have a ways to go, but you're definitely getting there. Or you have lost a lot of weight, but I mean, oh, it's too bad about the stretch marks, huh? I guess you're going to have to, you know, get something done about that. Or I know some good cream that'll take care of those stretch marks for you. They might fat shame you in that way. Or, oh, it's so great that you had the baby. You know, oh, those last few pounds, you're just going to have to beat that off your body, you know, like something like that. So they fat shame you, but they kind of do it in a covert way. So that's number 3. Number 4 is that they hate gift giving, which is so strange. I mean, most people love to make other people happy. They love to, I can't wait till you open your gift. It's going to be so fun, so exciting, but not narcissists. No, they hate doing that. They don't like having other people have attention on them. They're so cheap. They wait till the last second to buy the present. They buy presents that they like. They might buy presents that are too big for somebody, or that are like regifted. They might buy something that is like the cheapest possible thing. They don't want to have to do anything for anybody else. So it's just really the bane of their existence to have to go and buy a gift for somebody else. It's just not something that they really enjoy doing at all. So they'll run in to the cheapest store. They want to buy something that makes them look good, but get away with the least amount of effort or cost possible. That's kind of the best way that I can put it. That's number 4. Number 5 is they hate holidays. Most people, they love, an opportunity for people to celebrate and gather and, have happiness and joy and peace and all the things. Not narcissists. It's just bizarre. What's another thing that's bizarre about narcissists? They don't like holidays. Why? Because it is an opportunity for people to be paying attention to people other than them. So they create chaos when it comes to holidays. They make everybody else miserable. This is when they start fights and they pick fights with you and everybody else, because they don't want happiness and joy. I want people to be paying attention to me, right? They're just big babies when it comes to holidays. They're just very odd in that way. If you guys have seen that, give me so odd in the comments, or tell me what you guys have seen. What kinds of bizarre behaviors have you guys seen? Put them in the comments for me. And so number 6 is they will traumatize you before every important event. You're getting ready to graduate. You're getting ready to speak at a major event. You have an important meeting. So what do? They make sure that this has to be about them. This is when the meltdown happens, right? Because they cannot have your attention be put on somebody else or something else. So this is when they start to have their meltdown, or they start interrupting you. And that's number 6. Number 7 is they interrupt you constantly. They tell you that you interrupt constantly. Why are you constantly interrupting me? I was speaking. Oh my God, now you're raising your voice. I can't talk to you when you're raising your voice. Why are you talking to me that way? I literally just tried to talk to you and you just raised your voice. Okay, well, I can't talk to you when you're talking to me like that. You didn't even raise your voice. You didn't interrupt them, but they interrupt you constantly, literally constantly. I cannot tell you how many times that has happened when I've tried to have a conversation with a narcissist. And then you try to make a point and they constantly interrupt you. But then when you say you're interrupting, they say, well, I can't listen to you when you're talking about that. They have an excuse for interrupting. It's okay to interrupt you because what you're saying is ridiculous. So that's number 7. Number 8 is they lie, even when they don't need to. They lie. But what's so puzzling to me is they lie about things that are readily verifiable, And they lie even when they don't need to. It's like, why did they lie about that? It was like something they didn't even need to lie about. It's just such a habit for them that they just always lie. That's number 8. Number 9, they don't want you to initiate sex. Even if they're a man, they do not want you to initiate sex because it's a control thing. And finally, number 10, most important, number 10, so odd, most bizarre. You are either their friend or their enemy, nothing in between, black and white. So if you decide you are against them, you are public enemy number 1. You better run for the hills. No, that is not true. You don't run. Step 1, don't run. Step 2, make a U-turn. Step 3, break free. Make sure you don't ignore these red flags of a narcissist. What's the first thing that you look for? This is a person who is probably the most charming, most charismatic, most incredible person that you have ever met on the planet. And they make you feel like you are the most special, amazing, incredible human being that they have ever met. The stars have aligned. Where have you been all of their lives? They call it love bombing, but it doesn't matter. It could be a business relationship too. I was in a business relationship with a narcissist, and I know you're over there thinking, wow, where has this person been all my life? Everything you like, they like. Everything that you can imagine, they can imagine. And you know why? Because they're mirroring you. They use these mirror neurons. And so they've been studying you. They've been looking at you because narcissists know how to read people. They've been studying you. It is literally a survival technique that they've learned since childhood. They had trauma when they were children. And the only survival technique that they really know is how to read people and how to get what they want out of people. They know how to use people. So using people for their own gain, for their own opportunistic gain, is the one thing that they're really, really good at. Yes, their true colors show up later on, and it doesn't take that long, quite frankly. But at the beginning, you really feel like, wow, I mean, totally swept up off your feet and almost like you can't breathe, and if you try to see any of those red flags at the beginning, because they start to crop up fairly quickly, they shoot them down as quickly as they come up. They want you to only see those incredible, amazing things right away. Look at how much we have in common. Look at how the stars have aligned. I have all the perfect clients for you, or look at all these things that we have in common. We're just soulmates on every level. And then they want to get to that next level as quickly as possible. Whatever it is, if they're in a business relationship with you, or even if it's a personal relationship, they're rushing you to that next level as fast as possible because they want to lock you in as fast as possible, because they want to get to the point where they're taking withdrawals from the relationship. They're depositing at the beginning, but they want to take withdrawals as fast as possible. If it's moving in together, if it's meeting the family, if it's signing contracts, let's become business partners, whatever it is, let's get to that next stage as fast as possible, because they want to start taking withdrawals as quickly as they possibly can. Where can we get to that next level as fast as possible? That's one of the red flags that you'll see, moving as quickly as possible to that next stage. And then as soon as you get to that next stage, you start to see those red flags. The stories don't add up. You see some lying, you see some projection, you see some denying. And this is where you start to see where they start to manipulate. You start to see the lying. You start to see where they're not so interested in you right away. You start to see ghosting, all of a sudden they're not responding to your text messages right away anymore. Now you're needy, very, very hypersensitive to criticism. Even if you might say something about that they came home late or they don't want to have that for dinner or whatever, every little thing is potentially a criticism. And then that could become a massive disagreement, a massive personal attack. And you might even find yourself defending them for yourself, because you've made this decision to be in this relationship with them. And if they come across as moody or, they're late or they're not doing things in a certain way, and other people are starting to see those true colors, if you find yourself kind of making excuses on their behalf, I want you to look at those red flags on your behalf, because, if you're starting to make excuses for them, well, they had a difficult childhood. Well, they're having a bad week. Well, they didn't have a good day. They didn't get you a birthday present or something, and everybody's sort of noticing they didn't get you a birthday present, and you're having to say, well, they didn't have much money. They had a bad month or whatever. And you're making excuses for them. I want you to really take note of that. Really think about what it is that you want in a relationship. They would say that they were going to do something and then didn't, or they would lie to a client, and, what was going on with that? Lying about money and, what's happening with that. If you feel like something underlying is going on and something is off, like they're not really quite happy for you when they should be. And then you ask them about it. Well, I'm just, why are you pushing on this? I'm not feeling well. It's not that. It's, I just didn't have a good day. I just didn't hear you right. And they're always making excuses. You just can tell they're not really caring about you. And things just feel manipulative. They feel like they're jealous of you. And there's just this underlying current of something going on. Maybe you find out that they said something about you behind your back. And then when you ask them about it, they say, oh, that person was twisting my words. I didn't put it exactly that way. That's not how I said it. But that maybe something isn't quite right. I've helped thousands and thousands of people negotiate. I've seen them all. I've seen narcissists at their best, and I've seen them at their worst. And I've seen how they cannot accept this one single quality. So what do you think that it is? Well, they have a difficult time accepting criticism of any form. They have to see themselves as perfect, or at least they want the world to see themselves as perfect. They cannot have anyone point out anything that looks like any form of criticism of any kind. So they can't take responsibility for their actions. They often react with defensiveness. That's why they have everybody else take responsibility for their own actions. That's why they're constantly projecting and deflecting. Their sense of self is just so fragile. It's just so fragile. They have no internal sense of value. And that's why anything that looks or smells like a slight is just, this almost shattering to them. And so that's why they can't apologize unless it's a manipulation of some sort. That's why everything has to be somebody else's fault. Potentially exposing them is absolutely your best leverage because of that. And so if anyone or anybody thinks that they're not as great as either they want you to think that they are, or this picture that they think that they're painting of themselves as they think that they are, They will react with anger, defensiveness, or even rage. And they will just try to discredit you, discredit anyone that they think has criticized them, make you think that you're wrong for even speaking up for it. But it's all because they feel such deep shame inside, and they want you to feel small. They build themselves up to try to make you feel small. They can't handle not being told that they're absolutely perfect. And this is why they try to align themselves with people who they think are higher or better or more respected, because they think it makes themselves look higher, better, more respected. I mean, they'll do anything to avoid looking bad. They can't accept this criticism. They need to be the center of attention. They have this grandiose sense of self-importance. They desperately need this adulation. They desperately need to feel important. They use people in order to make themselves feel more important. This need that's so desperate that they can't even feel anything for anyone else. It's not that, oh, I don't want to feel anything for anyone, so let me go use people. It's because they have this need that's so ruthless and so painful, almost. That's why they can't feel anything for anyone else. I mean, it is a personality disorder. It is an absolute on the books disorder. So the one quality that they absolutely cannot accept is that they're not perfect. They know deep down inside that they're not, but they don't want to be told that. And they certainly don't want you to know that. And they certainly don't want the world to see that. So they will go to any lengths to make sure that that facade is protected. And how does that show up? It shows up in so many different ways. They can't accept criticism. They can't accept responsibility for their behaviors. They can't accept being told that they're not perfect. They can't accept that they're not always right. They're unable to accept negative feedback. They're unable to accept that other people have different opinions than their own. All of those things are manifestations that they're not perfect. You know, they can't accept that responsibility for their behaviors. That's why they have to project and deflect, lie and deny. Every single one of those things that I just mentioned are manifestations of the same thing, which is the one quality that they cannot accept, which is that they're not perfect. Now, when you go to negotiate with this narcissist, when you go to try to have a conversation with them in a negotiation setting, how does that manifest itself? You're going to be dealing with somebody who's constantly playing games. You cannot tell them, oh, this is what you did wrong, or this is how your behavior was poor. Anything that shows up like that, you're going to be getting backlash right at you. So you kind of have to play the game with them a little bit, right? You have to act like, maybe you're going along until you're ready to expose them. You have to create leverage in the right way because, you're going through the different phases with them. And that all shows up in that discard phase. And, in the discard phase, they're going to be lining up their flying monkeys. They're going to be, in that discard phase. That is when you see the birth of the smear campaign. But why do they do that? Well, because they want to get to you before you can get to them, because they don't want you to expose them as not being perfect. All right. The first thing that they do is word salad. And what is word salad? Well, it's kind of like what you think. It's like confusing you. It's like these words that are all mixed up all the time and trying to confuse you so that you kind of don't know what's going on. So here's an example of that. You think something is resolved. for example, out to lunch with somebody, and they say, why did you go out to lunch with this person? I thought I could trust you. It seems like you're cheating on me. And you spend like an hour fighting about this thing, and I was texting you on the way there, and you know that, and you're like defending yourself the whole time, and you think that it's resolved. It's like this craziness, because they bring something up as if it's reality, and it's never been reality to begin with. They're also saying two different things at the same time, that like they'll say, I'm trying very hard to make this work. And then at the same time, they'll say, I want a divorce, or I can't do this anymore. It's like they're all over the place all the time. Or they'll be asking for second chances multiple times. In the next breath, they'll be, get the hell out of here. I don't want you anymore. They're just constantly constant craziness with their word salad with that. So constantly trying to make you look like you're the one who's the problem, but yet they're all over the place with their word salad constantly. You're the one who keeps being the issue. It's your problem. You are the one who keeps making problems in the marriage or in the relationship, even though you're just over there trying to like survive in this world of craziness. All right. That's number one. Number two is they seed people. They tell people that there's issues, and they start doing this long before you even realize that there's an issue in the relationship, or in business. They do this as well, by the way. This is what happened with me in my business relationship. Beware if you are a coworker, boss, whatever. I've seen this with other people as well. So what will happen is, long before you even realize what is going on, they will start dropping little things into conversations. Covert narcissists are the masters at this, by the way. And it will be a little something about somebody. Oh, it's kind of unfortunate that this person is this. Or they might kind of even couch it in terms of caring. I'm so concerned about how much this person, has going on in their home life, something like that, like as if they're caring about the person, but they're also sort of dropping in that this person is obviously very distracted at work. You see what I'm saying? Something like that, where the person might not be distracted at all, but they're kind of like seeding things. If it's a divorcing situation, they might be seeding something to a neighbor, like, oh, I'm just so concerned about Tim's drinking. He's drinking a lot more than he used to, or I think he might be depressed or something, and Tim has no drinking issues. But they'll just start seeding things like that. They do this even with marriage counselors, by the way, to make themselves look more like the victim or something like that. So that's number two. They start seeding their little flying monkeys or whatever to try to line up their armies. Number three is they can be extremely disagreeable. Like, for example, they'll just drag their feet on things. They're like passive aggressive, just not doing things that they say they're going to do, refuse to go along with certain plans, or agree that they're going to go along with certain plans and things like that, and then do it at the last second. And then say, I agreed. I said that I would do it or whatever. But then they don't do it until the last second. And then they make it look like, I said that I would do it. And then they make it look like you were the one who was the problem because, you're complaining the whole time. What are you talking about? Why are you complaining? I said that I would do it. And so then it makes you look like you were complaining over nothing, or just being somebody who just bitches and moans to everybody because, look, you did what they're complaining about. What are you talking about? So they foot drag or they criticize or whatever, but then to the rest of the world, it looks like, what are you talking about? So that's the next one. The next one is they just ignore or break promises or forget to do things or whatever. But then, you are the one who has to take the fall for these things. So this was especially the case for me, in a business situation or whatever, especially if they know that they can get away with this and have you look like the one who's going to be the one who takes the fall for it and be the one who is the face of that situation. I've seen this so often in a business situation, where they can break promises, ignore promises, forget to do things. These are so much covert narcissist moves. Wherever there's that plausible deniability, they will definitely take advantage. The next one is what we call toxic amnesia, where they don't remember faults of their own, but they highlight your faults. So, they make sure that they are always the perfect one, but you are the one who is the bad one in the relationship. They're constantly judging you. They're constantly remembering all the things that you did wrong in the relationship, but they never remember any of the things that they did wrong in the relationship. And I'd love to know so far which ones of these you guys have seen and which ones you guys have had to live with so far. If you guys have seen any others, let me know in the comments. And if you've seen any of these, give me a totally in the comments. And I'd love to get some feedback from you guys on which ones you've seen so far too. Number 6 is they file false pleadings over and over again. And they make it seem like where there's smoke, there's fire. That is just so not true when it comes to narcissists. They will file false pleadings, make it seem like, oh my God, there definitely must be something going on with this person. Conversely, the other thing that they do is they will just not respond to pleadings a lot of times, or they'll file just partial responses and things like that. It's so frustrating as an attorney, that's for sure. Just so annoying. And it's expensive as well. So expensive, which is why I have my Slay program out there, by the way. And if you want to just get started with something free, just go to winmynegotiation.com and you can get my free Crush My Negotiation prep worksheet. It's a free ebook. It's 15 pages, which will get you started. I mean, actually, many people have actually won their entire negotiations just on that. So if you want to get something that will totally get you started, just get my free ebook and get started with that. It will totally help you so much. Literally, I think close to 100,000 people have downloaded that and got started with that. So totally free. It's an ebook, my gift to you. So just get started with that. And also join my free private Facebook group, because that will help you tremendously as well. Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung. That is a huge support group, which will help you quite a bit also. And the last one is the best one, best, worst, however you want to look at it, is that they bait you and then they use your reaction against you. I mean, can I get a totally on that? Oh my gosh. Bait you, I call it reactive abuse. Bait you and use your reaction against you, right? So any assertiveness that you show at all, anything, if you object, if you are angry, if you're upset at all, if you show any outrage, if you are anything at all, then that is totally turned around, used against you, and you're labeled as hurt, aggressive, you're aggressive, and then you are cast as the abuser. You're cast as the one who is the problem. And especially if they can somehow use it against you in court, they definitely will. So be very, very careful about that. Remember that anything that you put in writing is a potential trial exhibit. Make sure that you're super careful about that in texts, emails, on social media. Anything you put your hand to is a potential trial exhibit. So be super careful about that. All right. One of my favorite holiday traditions is baking cookies with my daughter. We've done it every year since she was little. And now, even though we're miles apart, I can see those memories come to life again right here on my Aura frame. What if you could give a gift that brings your holidays to life all the time, every single day? And with an Aura frame, you can. I absolutely love how easy it is. You can preload the photos, before you ship it as a gift, and then you can actually remotely continue to add to it. It includes photos and videos all for free, and it comes packaged in a beautiful gift box, no price tag, can't wrap togetherness, but you can frame it with Aura Frame. And for a limited time, you can visit auraframes.com and get $45 off Aura's best-selling cover matte frame, named #1 by Wirecutter, using the promo code Rebecca at checkout. That's auraframes.com. Promo code Rebecca. This exclusive Black Friday Cyber Monday deal is their best of the year, so order now before it ends, and make sure you mention the show when you go to checkout. Terms and conditions apply. 10 signs that the narcissist is playing you for a fool. Ready? Let's go. Number 1, they constantly don't do what they say they're going to do. Does this happen to you? They say that they're going to do something and then they just don't bother. This is classic covert narcissist stuff. Passive aggression. I know I dealt with it before because I had a narcissistic business partner. So they smile and they say, "Sure, I'll do it." And then, where is it? When are they doing it? And then you feel bad because you're not saying, "Where is it?" And then how many times you want to have the fight or say something to them, and then everybody else thinks they're so nice. They just don't do what they say they're going to do. What are you going to do about it? How many times you want to have the fight? Right? And then, or it's project and deflect. "Oh, I never said that. I never said I was going to do exactly that. You misheard me. That's not what I said I was going to do. Oh, yes, it was. No, I said I was going to do this." It's a game, right? This constant game. That's number 1. They just constantly don't do what they say they're going to do. They're irresponsible. Project, deflect, lie, deny. And then who does it fall to? Who ends up having to clean up the mess? Who ends up having to do the things that they didn't end up doing that they said they were going to do? Well, that would be you, probably, of course, right? I know for me, when I was dealing with narcissists on a regular basis, it would end up being me, because the non-narcissists end up cleaning up the mess and picking up the slack, unless you've got good boundaries. That's one of the things that I teach. Have good boundaries. Step 1, don't run. Have good boundaries. Yes. Number 2, every time you try to bring up a problem, they project and deflect. That brings me to number 2, right? Project and deflect. You try to bring up a problem. "That's not me, wasn't me. Let's not talk about this now. Why are you bringing this up now? I just got home. I'm tired. This isn't a convenient time. This wasn't my fault. It was somebody else's fault. That wasn't what we talked about." It's never exactly, somehow they're like Teflon, and it just doesn't end up being on them. You're too loud. You interrupted. It's just always something. "I don't feel well. I had a funeral. Somebody in my family died." There's always something, right? Every single time you try to bring something up, they project and deflect. They're like the ducks with the feathers, with the rain. It just doesn't end up on them somehow, ever, at all. Again, it falls on you, right? 10 signs they're playing you for the fool, because it ends up falling on who? That's number 2. Number 3. Narcissist constantly finds fault with you and never takes responsibility for themselves. It's always your fault, your problem, you're the one. And what's crazy is, like, if they have a problem at work, they have a problem with other people, they get fired from their job, whatever it is, it's always your fault, your problem. You're the one who causes all the issues. in their lives. It's never on them. They never have to take responsibility for anything that ever happens in their lives. It's always you. You're the one that caused it. In fact, if they have problems with their ex, if they have problems with their kids, with their ex, whatever, it's always your fault somehow. That's number 3. Number 4, the narcissist tells you that everyone else thinks that they are wonderful. They're amazing. But you are the problem. Have you heard this before? Everyone else says, but you are. Everyone, this collective everyone. You don't know who everyone is, but somehow everyone says that blah, blah, blah. So, they do this so that you somehow feel small. And you're supposed to believe that they've got this army of flying monkeys that have aligned with them so that you are in control and feel isolated and feel scared to stand up to them or scared to do anything. That's why they say those kinds of things. It's not true. It's not true. Just like they say things to scare you. I know as an attorney, many times people have come into my office and have said things that are just flat out not true. Like, I'm going to be able to take your kids from you forever. And I'm going to take the house from you. And I'm going to take all the assets. And that's just so not true, because that's not what the law provides. The law provides for equal division of assets, or probably 50-50 custody, or whatever it is. But, they say these things, they make these threats, and they're just simply not true. So this everyone else, thinks blah, blah, blah is usually just a bunch of crap, and you just need to not listen to it. All right. That's number 4. Number 5, the number 5 sign that the narcissist is playing you for a fool is that the narcissist has this attitude like everything in the relationship should be your job, and everything in the relationship should be optional for them. So, like basically they show up and get to do things, if they want to, but you have to do everything. It's all like mandatory for you. So you're just kind of like the person who is like their servant, and they just kind of show up when they want to and do things if they want. But then of course they take credit for everything. And you're not supposed to get any thanks or acknowledgement or be at all, any sort of gratitude or anything like that. But it's just expected, right? So, and that actually kind of leads me to number 6, which is the narcissist doesn't want to have to acknowledge anything that you have done for them. It's all just expected. It's basically kind of like the price for being in their space, because they're just so amazing and so special that you're supposed to just sort of work for them, be their servant, their janitor, their, whatever. And, the price for being in their space is just that. It's just sort of like the bare minimum for being in their space. Right. And then number 7 is that they, in reciprocal, do just the bare minimum back for you. So if you're in a romantic relationship with them, they'll do very bare minimum as far as gifts for you, at the last second, or they kind of begrudge having to buy a gift for you. Or if they do, it's something that's sort of for themselves too. or something like that. They really sort of resent the fact that they have to do anything for you at all. They will, but they really don't want to have to. By the way, if this sounds familiar to you, give me a yes in the comments. Just put yes in the comments, like if any of this sounds familiar so far. We're in 10 signs that the narcissist is playing you for a fool. So number eight, the narcissist lies or withholds information from you and then denies it. So when you go and ask them about whether or not they have lied or denies information, they were like, "Oh, I told you about that," or "I wasn't denying it. It was right there in the open. You could have found that out, or I was doing this, all along." Like they totally deny it. They totally lie about it, even though they were lying right to your face, or withholding information right to your face. They lie or withhold information and then they deny it. Okay. So that's number eight. Number nine, the narcissist did not have your back. They don't support you when you need it, but they expect you to have theirs at all times. It's a constant one way street feeling. But yet they'll say to you, "I have your back. I'm your biggest fan." But yet you know that they don't. You know that they don't show up for you. One single slight against them and they go ballistic. They expect you to have blind loyalty for them. So that's number nine. And number 10, the number 10 sign that a narcissist is playing you for a fool is when you get ready to leave, they'll say whatever they need to keep you, but then they'll pull you back, but then they push you away all the time, constantly. "I want you to leave. I want you to get out of here." If it's a romantic relationship or a business relationship, they treat you horribly, constantly. They push you to the edge, basically make you feel like you just want to get out of there. And then when you finally do leave, they pull you back. They do whatever they can to pull you back and future fake you, like things are going to be better, so much better in the future. You'll see. And they'll start doing all the things they should have done in the first place. And then, you get sucked back in. It's this constant push pull, constant push pull. They push you all the way to the edge and then back in. Push pull, push pull, push pull, constantly. That's how you know they're really playing you for a fool, because you can't get out until you finally do, right? Those are 10 signs that a narcissist is playing you for a fool. So, what happens when a narcissist realizes that you refuse to be controlled? Well, first of all, narcissists need control because it protects their identities and their fragile egos. They are underneath very actually afraid of you. They're actually more afraid of you than you are of them. And I say that all the time. And I think a lot of people don't believe me, but that's true. That all that stuff that they layer on is actually just a show. I often say it's sort of like the Wizard of Oz. You know how the Wizard of Oz built that whole Emerald City and all that stuff? He did all of that because he was hiding that feeble, scared little man that was behind the curtain. That's what the narcissist is. They actually have very, very, very low self-esteem, a very fragile self that they're hiding. And they're manipulating others, and they use tactics such as gaslighting and guilt and shame and all of those things because they're trying to control their outcome, desperately trying to control their circumstances around them, because they're actually very, very scared people who are sure of themselves, people who are confident, they're not desperate to try to control things. It's only actually very fearful people who are desperate to try to control. So, knowing what narcissists are doing to try to control their victims or their targets will actually help you feel more educated, and it'll actually help you understand what's going on. And it will actually help you to be more prepared and anticipate what's going to happen. And that's part of my SLAY methodology, by the way, which is strategy, leverage, anticipate what's going to happen. And then you can focus on you, your position, and be ready. Okay. So anticipate is the A. And once you understand what's happening, you can anticipate what's going to happen. So understanding it will actually help you. So understand that they're actually very ashamed people. They have a lot of shame. I mean, you think you might have shame. Brene Brown talks about shame. They have more shame than anyone else. I mean, they are shame personified. They're like one big shame donut. So they use control and manipulation as a way to try to keep their kingdom intact. And you notice they build a kingdom around them and they don't really stray from that too much. Okay, so they do know exactly what they're doing and they are aware in some ways of their toxic behavior. And you know that they're aware because they know how to behave in certain situations. They know how to love bomb you to get you to do what they want in the beginning. They are aware of that. Okay, so what happens when they realize that you refuse to be controlled? We're going to go through 7 things. So number 1, you're going to see that narcissistic rage. I mean, because they have that narcissistic injury, which is that fragile self that they have. And once that scab is picked at, then that narcissistic rage is just beneath that surface, and that will come flying out. And that can come flying out in a couple of different ways. For an overt narcissist, you can see aggressive outbursts. And depending on how overt they are, you can start to see stalking or violence, or even threats of violence, threats of stalking, that sort of thing. For a covert narcissist, they might be a little bit more passive aggressive. They might make themselves into a victim, but that narcissistic rage will start to creep up and they start to be something more than what you might have seen in the past. The heat will start to turn up. So that is the first thing that you'll see. The next thing that you start to see, and this is, all part of that discard phase, you start to see the birth of the smear campaign. By the way, and I have mentioned this in the past, the birth of the smear campaign can start to happen long before what you start to perceive as the discard phase. Sometimes you see the 3 main phases of a narcissistic relationship. It's the love bombing, the devaluing, and the discard. And I've often said this before as well. It's not linear. They do go back and forth between these phases. And when you are going to negotiate with the narcissist, you have to understand that even in the negotiation phase, they will still go back and forth between these phases, because they will want to rely on using these phases to see what will potentially work for them. Even with the love bomb, by the way, don't confuse love bombing with true love. But I do want to say you will see that birth of that smear campaign potentially start happening even before what you perceive the discard phase to be. They start embedding pieces of smearing long before the breakup actually happens. And so they might have started lining up flying monkeys or their army of people by starting to say things against you and about you long before you realize there was even an issue, because they realize, hey, you might discard them eventually, or they may want to discard you eventually. So they start getting people on their side. And so they start saying things about you even long before. And by the way, the flying monkey may not even realize that they're being recruited. And I think that that's an important piece, that the flying monkey may be just being love bombed by that narcissist too. That's something that wasn't necessarily clear to me at the beginning either. You know, they might just be oblivious to the whole situation too. The other thing that I think that is important for you all to understand as well is that these phases are not necessarily just in intimate relationships or romantic relationships. The narcissist uses these tactics and interacts the same way, whether it's a business relationship, a romantic relationship, neighbors, friends, family, whoever it is, they are the same. They interact the same way, regardless of who they are interacting with or the type of relationship that it is. And what I mean, by the way, when I say they start saying things about people long before the discard phase, they don't necessarily even say, oh, that person is a bad person. They might actually even say it in a way where the flying monkey thinks that they're saying something in the spirit of caring. So they might say something like, oh, I'm concerned for so-and-so because they had too much to drink last night, or I'm concerned for so-and-so because of how they're behaving, or something like that, where it makes it seem like they're worried about you, but they're really embedding a smear. So it seems like they're a good person. So that's number 2, is the smear campaign. Number 3 is they might just do a disappearing act. They may just ghost you. They may just stop talking to you altogether. So that's number 3. So by the end of this video, I'm going to share with you 10 superpowers that you have unknowingly. But by the end of this video, you're going to know what they are. One of the superpowers that you have as an empath is the ability to sense the emotions of others. Highly, highly, highly sensitive to the emotions of others. You can sense what somebody is feeling even if they don't say it. Narcissists are totally oblivious to that. They're only about themselves. Yes, this can be a blessing and a curse, because you can also sense the negative emotions of others. And what this means is that we need time to regroup. We need time to ourselves, especially if we are in big groups of people. It's so wonderful because we can be there for people and we can sense, how people are, but we also need time to ourselves. The next superpower that you have, probably unknowingly as an empath, is the ability to read people. You can read what people are feeling, what people are thinking, what people are conveying, even if they're not saying it. And we have this ability to tell if somebody is lying or hiding something, and if people are being inauthentic. And this can be very, very helpful in personal relationships and definitely in professional relationships. I have been able to really tell if somebody is bluffing in negotiations. I've even created a whole snuffing out the bluffing cheat sheet, which I actually include in my Slay program, because I want you to be able to tell if somebody is bluffing as well. Okay, next is the ability to feel the energy of people. We can sense, we are very attuned if somebody is in a bad mood. And this is not good when you are dealing with somebody who's highly, highly toxic. You really have to start learning to put like this invisible sort of shield around you. Once you get out of these relationships, whether they're personal or professional, you need to start what I call defending your light with your life. You are the result of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. If you spend too much time with somebody who's highly toxic, it can really lead to chronic illnesses. It can lead to trauma, both emotional trauma and physical trauma. You have the ability to be in this space, but you really need to be careful about feeling that energy. So you have the ability to heal people. I mean, a lot of people who are highly empathic become like the healing hands of others. So you can now learn how to become a Reiki healer, and both physically and emotionally. And it's a wonderful, just like you can become physically ill by being around people who are highly toxic, you can also be a healing presence for people who are in need of that as well. So that is a beautiful gift. The next one is the ability to see beyond that surface level, being able to build those strong relationships. A lot of people who are empathic, they just want to have a deep understanding of that human condition. When they meet somebody, when they have conversations with people, and connect with people on a deeper level, which is a beautiful part of being a deep empath. So, and I think it's a superpower for sure. So if you agree with me, put for sure in the comments. And I'd love to know how you're feeling about any of this so far too. I actually do have a video on the symbiotic relationship between the narcissist and the empath, which you may want to check out as well. The next one is the ability to be brutally honest. So the empath has the ability to not have a filter at times, because the empath also is highly authentic. And so a lot of times it can be difficult for an empath to hold back. And, for some people it can be refreshing, and for other people it cannot be. It can be like, whoa, I can't believe that person just said that. For other people it can be super empowering and inspiring, and some people like honesty like that, right? The next one is the ability to be highly intuitive, meaning a superpower of being able to see things before they happen. It can be a wonderful gift to gain that knowledge and make major life decisions in that way, maybe even help others prevent making mistakes before they happen too, if you have that much of a gift, which is a beautiful thing as well. Number 8 is the ability to be super compassionate. Empaths are naturally compassionate people and often really go out of their way to help people. This is so beneficial, again, in both personal and professional relationships. This is a type of person, you are a type of person who usually has a lot of integrity, can be very trustworthy, is the reliable one, the devoted one, a really good friend, which is the type of person you definitely want to have around. Pretty much the opposite of the narcissist, wouldn't you say? Number 9 is the ability to be non-judgmental. Empaths are usually, the kind of person you want to go to if you want to talk to somebody about something that's very vulnerable, and you just want to be accepted for who you are. You don't want to be judged. You don't want to be, changed or fixed or anything like that. You just want to be heard. And, that's the type of person that you want to be able to go to. And you just want to be able to empty out. You want somebody who can just hold space for you. And that is a beautiful superpower that you have. as a true empath. So, and maybe unknowingly. All right. So that's number 9. And number 10 is that ability to know what somebody is thinking, even if you are sometimes on the other side of the world or the other side of the country. You call them up and you go, oh my God, I was just thinking about you. Wow. Your minds are so in sync that you're like, wow, I was literally just about to say that you're that in tune with a person because your energy levels are so high. Because the bottom line is, somebody who is an empath at that level, your vibrational level is so high that you have that ability to be able to connect with people in such a joyful way, because joy is way, way high on the vibrational scale. So it's beautiful. It is absolutely the most wonderful quality to have. But if you're dealing with a narcissist, it can be very, very difficult. So only a super empath can destroy narcissists. How can they do that? What are you saying? You're telling me, right? Because narcissists seem like they're the superpower. They're the strong ones. That is not true. First of all, here's something that I have said over and over and over again. Narcissists are actually way more afraid of you than you are of them. And by the way, remember, they came trotting along. They said, oh, let me attach themselves to you. Let me glom onto you. They glommed onto you because you had tons and tons of value. The thing that they're afraid of the most is that you are going to abandon them. They do not want that. They do not want that host, that source of supply, to leave them. They're scared to death of that. You are their source. You are their food, their oxygen, their lifeblood. They need that. They attach themselves to you because you had so much value, not because you had so little value. They don't want that clearance rack item. They want the thing that has a lot of value, right? They want that shiny object. So that's the first thing. They love the fact that you had so much empathy, that you could give them all that love, all that compassion. They wish that they had what you had. They're jealous of the fact that you can feel. They know that they don't have that within them. They attach themselves to you because they know that you've got what they wish that they had. They look at you actually being able to connect with people, knowing that they're never going to be able to do that, knowing that they live vicariously through you, knowing that you're the one that has all the real connections with everyone in their life. So that's what makes them vulnerable. It makes them vulnerable because without you, they don't have that connection. Without you, they don't know what it means to actually have people in their life. They need you to feed them. They also need you as their source of connection to real people. They desperately wish that they had that. They desperately wish that they could feel the way that you do, but they can't. They know that they want to. They model themselves after people like you, and they look to see what it looks like to have the relationships that you do, but they know that they can't. One of the things that true super empaths have, true super empaths, like a Dalai Lama, for example, like let's think of the most empathic person on the planet, the true people who are standing in their power like that. Those are people who are authentically powerful, who are authentically feeling whole, complete, who are vibrating at a level of joy that's way up here. Now remember, narcissists are vibrating way down here. They're living in anger. They're living in rage. They're living in jealousy. They're living in constant consternation. Way down here. They can't be up here where the empaths are. Remember, radio waves cannot travel with light waves. One is super fast and one is super slow. Radio stations are not in the same place. think about this. One is steeped in authentic power, almost like an oak tree is deep into the ground, rooted. Whereas the other one is like a twig that's like something that's almost like superficially into the ground where the wind could just take it at any time. That's what you're dealing with a narcissist. I mean, they don't have any sense of who they actually are. They don't have any sense of an identity of who they are authentically. They feel constantly like other people are making them mad. Other people are the cause of their source of their pain and their rage. You know, they don't have any sense of authentic power. People who are truly in their power, who are truly who they are at peace. They are caring. And that is kryptonite to a narcissist. It's like looking at the sun for them. They can't be in the space of somebody like that because that's too much of high power for them, too much of high vibration for them, too much love, too much honesty, too much joy. They need somebody who's going to be willing to do the dance with them, willing to play that game with them. A true empath who stands in their power is not going to do that. Who's vibrating way up here. That's not a person who's down in that trench with them. That's why a true empath, a true high vibrating person who stands squarely in authentic core power, who is not baited by a narcissist, who knows how to just look at a narcissist and feel nothing but love and empathy for them, is not a person who would even attract somebody like that, because people who are attracting narcissists also have their own core wounds, who they feel like, oh, if I could just be in relationship with a narcissist and heal them, then I heal myself, and therefore I heal that core wound within me. Of course, that never ends up happening because it's that black hole and it's that push-pull and pull you back in and suck you back into the zone, and you never end up getting there. But a super empath who's that high vibration, high level, true person who really knows who they are is not a person who can remain in a situation like that and who can live long term. So the more and more healed that you become, the more and more whole and complete that you become, the more healed you become from your trauma, the less and less you can continue to coexist with a narcissist. You know, that's why I tell you to continue to take these lessons, to continue to take the learning that we're giving you here and continue to extricate yourself from these relationships, get this help and support that you need, continue to watch videos like this. And if you're negotiating, you know, make sure that you're looking into things like my Slay program, join my free private Facebook group for this help and support that you need so that you're not alone. That's Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung. If you need therapy, get the help and support that you need. BetterHelp.com/Rebecca Zung. We receive commissions on that. It doesn't cost you any extra. We just want you to have help and support that you need from resources that we've vetted and trust. They use all these manipulation tactics and things like that on people who are, you know, empathic, because, you know, they're constantly in this low level of vibration. But once you start rising and you start to become more and more aware of what's going on, and you start to see things for what they are, the less and less that you're going to be falling for it. And you're going to start spotting it way ahead of time, and you can start creating a plan and you can start sensing it as it's coming on, because the more your power grows, the more your vibration goes, the less and less you'll continue to want to be in relationship with this person. So that's why a super empath is actually way more powerful than a narcissist. I've said this over and over again, that you are actually the way more powerful one, and they know it. They know it. That's why they're trying to constantly control you. They're looking for ways to artificially control you. A truly powerful person doesn't need to box somebody in like that. You know, they know that they don't need to scream, yell, you have manipulation tactics and all that sort of thing to keep somebody there, to hold somebody there. They know that love is the answer. That's why a super empath can destroy a narcissist, and eventually a narcissist will see that you are the stronger one. How to break free from narcissistic relationships, how to communicate powerfully, how to shift that dynamic so that you can finally become the most powerful person in the room when it comes to being in toxic narcissistic relationships, and do it in a way that doesn't have backlash. So if that sounds like something you want to do, then subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell, because I release brand new videos every single day. All right. So what does it look like when a narcissist ultimately implodes? Well, narcissistic collapse is something that happens when a narcissist is basically exposed, when people figure out who they actually are, or when their whole world is just crumbling around them. You know, they just realize that it's all coming to an end. So they've tried to have this sort of fake thing going on for as long as they possibly can. They've got this impression where everybody thinks that they're this personality, this persona. You know, when they were children, they created this person in the world that they wanted the world to see. But then there was this small inside scared version of themselves, and they didn't want anyone to see that small inside scared version of themselves. They only wanted the world to see the outside persona. And so what happens with narcissistic collapse is kind of the mask comes off and everyone sees the real version, and they can't uphold that version anymore, that grandiose, confident version, or even if it's a covert version, it's that victim mentality. Everybody sees they're no longer a victim. Everyone sees that, oh, what, the jig is up. Maybe they're not a victim. So it's that when that mask comes off, when everyone sees who they really are. And so as a result, they kind of go crazy. You know, that narcissistic injury is highly inflamed. And so that narcissistic rage is triggered. They're highly, highly, highly triggered. And it can manifest itself in a number of different ways, because obviously they're human beings, and so they will react in different ways, but the resulting behavior is not something that it's not controlled, because they don't have control over their emotions. They bleed out. They are hurt people, so they bleed out all over everyone else. They end up being extremely emotional, extremely impulsive, you know, that you can see rage, toxicity. It's extremely intense and hurtful. It's impulsive often. It's stalking sometimes. And if you're in an intimate relationship with a narcissist, you know, you definitely become public enemy number one. They want to reach out and hurt you as much as they possibly can, unless if they go into serious collapse. I mean, every once in a while, if it's like maybe 1% of them, it maybe I've heard that, they can maybe use this as an opportunity for growth, but for the most part, they don't. But they certainly lose the ability to control themselves. For many people, when their world collapses around them, they don't have the ability to control themselves. But for narcissists, for sure, because they really are children who are stuck in adult bodies. They had trauma. I mean, these are people who had a lot of trauma as children. And so they are having a major trauma response. And so you see erratic behavior and intense behavior where, if you're in litigation with them, you'll start to see them maybe file all sorts of motions or use the court system as a sword, use the children as pawns. They might say things that are lies to other people. They start lining up people as their flying monkeys. And they may do things that are actually cause their themselves harm. And I'll tell you one thing that I find interesting, and the people who are in this with narcissists don't often see this. And as a lawyer, I have seen this. You guys might not see this. You think, oh, they're so smart or they'll always win. But they will burn themselves to the ground to burn you to the ground. So they make stupid decisions. They do dumb things a lot of times. They make mistakes. And so you can give them a little rope to hang themselves, and they will hang themselves a lot of times. They will do things that they will regret. Document those mistakes because they end up being good things that you can use down the road. And if you guys have seen that, let me know. Let me know in the comments. I would love to know the kinds of things that you have seen in the comments, or put I've seen it in the comments. A lot of times you will also start to see some hoovering during this period of time. And what that means is they'll start to try to come back and try to get you to come back to them. They will start DMing you, or they'll start emailing you or texting you in the middle of the night. They'll start saying, hey, are you up? Or I miss you. Or oh, I just heard a song. It made me think of you. Or I made a Spotify playlist for you. Or, or they might even do subtle things like put something in their Instagram bio that is just a reference to you, or some memory of something that you did together, which is no one else would know what that is other than you. Things like that. They may even beg you for another chance. They may even say they'll do whatever they need to get you back. They may even say they'll go to counseling or whatever. The one thing that I find very interesting too, by the way, is that, because of their ability for splitting, where their brain is like this kind of black and white and fractional memory, they can treat you so poorly and then expect you to come back and just completely forget about all of the things that they did. Even in a business situation, by the way, somehow not have any thought or care or think, about how the impact of their behavior was on you, and how that was for you, and that, that you might still be reeling from that in some way. So going back to the rage and that narcissistic rage, you may see a lot of kind of meltdown behavior, where they start to watch what it is that you're doing, stalking you in some way, tracking your car, having friends see what you're doing, tracking what you're doing, weird behavior that you may not have even seen before ever during the relationship. Maybe you don't even recognize who they are or what they're doing. Sometimes you start to see crazy behavior, crying, panic attacks, depression, all kinds of things that emotional things that you may not have even noticed before. And they might even start drinking a lot or using drugs or something, doing things that you might not have seen before, engaging in behaviors that you might not have seen, or maybe you saw before, but it becomes exaggerated, it becomes more pronounced, something like that. Obviously, their behaviors can become much more erratic, irritable, volatile, all of those sorts of things. And so you definitely have to be careful about being around them during this period of time. Do what you need to do to protect yourself. If you need to get a restraining order, definitely do that. Check to see what the laws are in your particular jurisdiction, or call the police or go to a shelter or do whatever it is that you need to do if you need to. But if they are acting erratic, don't give in to their behavior, because, they're just like children having a tantrum. I mean, they're always the worst right before they're ready to give up. And you need to think about that. You need to remember that